when he sent his application in to, you know, not hesitate on sending me email or calling up just to keep me reminded, because there's a lot of applications, you know, and he was pretty good about that. And so I always had North Attleborough on, you know, when I started the scheduling and got to Massachusetts, I mean, North Attleborough was right there, and, you know, they were determined.
The motorcycles, the sirens, all made us know that something important was coming that summer of 1999. Something which could reach out to people of all ages, from youngsters who had only read about it, to those who had prayed about it, and to those who had seen it and been there and lived through it all. The Vietnam Moving Wall arrived in North Attleborough, and those who saw it will always remember it and will feel its presence up there on that beautiful green field.
I helped with the wall because I was looking for closure. My ex-husband didn't die in the war, but he died because of the war.
And I said, yeah, I says, I know for a fact the lodge would be very interested, and I brought it up at a meeting, and tremendous support.
The Vietnam era is really my era. I graduated in '65 from high school, and a lot of guys were going into the service or were getting drafted or worried about getting drafted, and it was just, that was my youth.
I got involved in the Moving Wall because I'm involved with the Greater Attleboro Vietnam Veterans Association, and they're just a great bunch of hard-working veterans, and when they say they're going to do something, they get something done, and they asked if I would be willing to work on the committee, and I said, wow, yeah, I'd love it.
When we finally got the okay, there's a lot of excitement, because then again, we didn't know what we were walking into.
There were so many memories made at the wall as it stood at North Attleborough High School. It seems each person who was there experienced a moment that will be carried with them forever. It was a time of forgiving, a time of reflection, and most of all, it was a time for healing.
When I was at the wall, I could feel different feelings, remember different things. So it brought back memories, good and bad, but it was something that was necessary for a lot of us.
A lot of the people coming here have been, some paralyzed by an inability to grieve, or lost friends in the case of the veterans, lost children and other family members in the case of many visiting family members. And the monument allowed for that process to start for many.
We had a field service on Sunday out there with a military chaplain, and we brought in a Jeep and we set up and we had church service in the field like in Vietnam would be. And I know it sounds funny, but it really struck home with me. As he started, the geese took off from behind him, circled around, and if you know what the missing man formation is, they came over, everybody that was there saw it in a missing man formation.
I met a mother and a daughter, and they had lost their son. And so I just gave them a big hug because I was at the computer desk where we would find out their names that were on the wall. And I gave them a big hug and I walked them out there and helped them out.
A couple of nights I went home and I was trying to visualize in my mind 58,000 people, bodies, if we had a parade and had 58,000 bodies, one right after another, how far it would reach. And it was aghasting to realize that.
There was a guy that came, and God, he drove well over I think it was 150 miles. It's been a while since it's been here, so. He turned around 3 times and went home. Turned around 3 times and came back and finally made it to where that Taunton wall was, the small one at the beginning. Sat there and wept for a good 20, 30 minutes before I went over and I started talking to him. And finally I grabbed him. I says, it's a waste to drive all this way and not go, you know. So we walked up there arm in arm, and he got there, thanked me, and went on his way. And I believe he went to the computers, found a few of his friends, and the last I saw him walking out weeping.
The first night when I was on the computers, there was a young father that came up with his 2 sons. They had been to a Red Sox game, and so this was like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, and they wanted us to look up a name close to their name so that they could lay some flowers at the wall. And then the next night I was at the wall, and there was the father and the 2 sons and the little daughter and the wife, and they had flowers that they put at the names, and they also had done reports. They had looked up in the internet about these people and wrote reports, and they had papers, and it was just so impressive.
I would see guys come day after day, and they'd walk up to the wall and walk back, and not get a little closer, and then walk away. And then finally, I'd say about the 7th or 8th time, they'd walk up to the wall, touch it, have emotions, and then just walk away. You know, I don't think people understand what they went through or what they're still going through, even once they were there. I know a lot of people are more stronger and have put it aside and stuff like that, but it must be incredible to know what they went through.
Well, I went up to him when he was on his knees, and he was just sobbing like you couldn't believe. Just sobbing like you could not believe. And I knelt down next to him, put my arms around him. I said, talk to me, Mo. And he said, 2 minutes earlier, or 2 minutes later, that would have been me on the wall, this guy, you know. And I said, could you have changed that? And he said, no. And I said, did you do anything to cause that? He says, no. And I said, you need to remember him, but you need to stop beating yourself up. And we talked for a little bit, and he said, I feel a lot better. And he stood up, and he turned, and there was another veteran having a real rough time. He went over and hugged this guy and said to him, we can get through it. Didn't know him from Adam. To me, that's a miracle of the wall.
It's all about impacted grief, particularly amongst the guys and the women that were there. They couldn't stop and grieve as they lost people there. It would have been life-threatening for them. They had to be emotionally numb. Unfortunately, that emotional numbness stayed with them for some, close to 40 years. It's my job to help them try to revisit that pain and talk about it, experience it. It makes it less damaging, less destructive.
I don't think anybody really walked up to the wall and said, okay, I feel better now. You have to think about how lucky we were, the ones of us that came back, because I think a lot of the men that went over there were only boys, and a lot of them were real unlucky. I know as I looked through the printouts that we did on a lot of the people, even looking through the book, I was astonished at how many men had gone over there and died the same day that they arrived. It was just thinking how lucky we were and how unlucky they were. So that's all it was.
The stories and the coincidences have been incredible. That happened just in 10 days. We've had people tell us they've met people they haven't seen in 30 years. People who have seen, or they've seen a name, and there was one situation where a gentleman was helping doing a rubbing, and it turned out that he knew who the person was, and he turned around and told the exact date when the person was killed, and the woman wanted to know how he knew that, and he said, well, I was speaking with him the day before.
I can just remember sitting in that canvassy smelling, military smelling tent and talking to a lot of the other veterans and remembering, you know, the camaraderie was so tight, you know. You could close your eyes, and if you didn't know you were at the grounds of North Attleborough High School, if you just paid attention to the smells and the sounds and the guys chatting and what they were chatting about, you could be back 30, 40 years, 35 years. You know, I left Vietnam June 6th, 1966. So I've been out of Vietnam a long time. And you could just close your eyes. And when another guy came into the tent, it was, hey brother, how you doing? It was, you know, there was just this wonderful feeling that you miss.
While there were private moments of healing at the wall, there were also shared times as town residents gathered together for the various ceremonies held during the wall's 1999 visit. Thomas G. Kelly, Medal of Honor recipient and Massachusetts Commissioner of Veteran Services, offered these words about the memorial.
That what made this memorial unique and special were the names. The names to the right, the names to the left, names that went on and on and on. Names who were young boys or very young men, or in 7 cases, young women, when they left the comfort of their homes, the love of their families and friends, and the joys of youth, to go where their country sent them, where they became grown-ups overnight, and where their dreams and aspirations were snuffed out in a flash. While others who remained at home concerned themselves with marriages and mortgages, these young heroes had to worry about mines and mortar attacks in a land far away.
The high school proved a beautiful setting for the Moving Walls visit. Wilson Whitty, who served as the high school principal at that time, spoke about the school's involvement.
When it became known that we could be a possible host for the display, there was absolutely no question in my mind that that was the thing to do, as we had the best facility in town, most accommodating for this presentation. And we're proud to be just a very, very small part of that, but we're proud to be part of it nonetheless. And in welcoming you, I guess we also symbolically welcome the memory of every one of the veterans on that wall. And that makes it a very special event for our community.
U.S. Congressman James McGovern also joined in the opening ceremonies.
I was a teenager when the Vietnam War ended. And Vietnam, for me, was a chaotic image on the television news. It was the stories of a neighbor who returned home from the fighting. And it was a political firestorm that ensued here at home. But one thing is clear, and that is each and every name on this wall represents a patriot. Each and every name represents an American who loved and respected this country. Each and every name represents an American who fought for our country and for our freedom and for our future. And we should never ever forget that.
The wall held a special significance to Commander Porter Halliburton, who not only served in Vietnam, but who was held as a POW for 7.5 years.
And I think it's so appropriate that we celebrate that sacrifice, that we remember that sacrifice, and that we prepare for the future, knowing that this will not be the last war. These will not be the last casualties. This is not the final price that we must pay to maintain our freedom and the freedom of those in the world who struggle to be free from tyranny.
Assistant Veterans Agent Joe Clougherty was instrumental in bringing the wall to North Attleborough, and he spoke at the opening ceremonies about how much it all meant to him.
When the decision was made to try and get the Vietnam Moving Wall in North Attleborough, it was a 50-50 chance, but it was worth the chance. John Devitt saw it in his heart to give a good Irish kid a chance, and he did. So we got notification that it was coming here. We had to form some good people, and we did. That's the best damn committee in the world right over there.
At the Remembrance ceremony for POWs and MIAs, guest speaker, former POW Timothy Sullivan, told how those in captivity could still feel the support from those at home.
Let me just begin by saying on a personal note that I'd like to thank anybody and everybody that during the Vietnam War wore any of those POW bracelets. Those things made a big difference in the way that we were treated in Vietnam. Prior to, I'll say, '69, when they first started to come out and they started to show up on different things and in pictures and show up at places like the Paris Peace Talks, our treatment wasn't all that good. When the Vietnamese figured out that we were important, that not only were we important to the government, but more importantly, we were important to the American people, that there was a big movement about to bring us home, to account for us, to be sure that anybody that was there got back, our treatment greatly improved. One of the reasons that these people made this sacrifice is that we are a nation of laws. We started a revolution from the British because we weren't allowed to represent ourselves. We didn't have a say in the laws that were governing us. The people that follow the rules, play by the laws, play by the rules. Any way you want to put that, any way that makes any sense to you, they are the ones that make this country. They are the ones that make it great. They are the ones that make it the country that it is today.
Vietnam veteran Paul Bellum shared a speech by veteran Sammy Davis, a Congressional Medal of Honor recipient, which was delivered at the National Salute to the Vietnam Veterans in Washington, D.C. in November of 1984. The speech spoke to the issues of MIAs and POWs.
Today, we dedicate a statue honoring our living, which has been placed in the shadow of our monument honoring the dead. I suggest to you that the two words of 1963 speak directly to them men of 1984 who yet to find a place on this mall. Freedom now. Freedom now for the POWs, the MIAs, yet to be accounted for from the Vietnam War. Accounted for is a contemptible term. To begin with, money and property are accounted for, not men. And not accounted for is simply unacceptable. The man in the White House can hear us from here. The man in the White House who already claims to support our goals can hear us from here as well. Freedom now. Freedom now. Freedom now. Freedom now. Freedom now. Freedom now. Freedom now.
Bob Baldwin from the Moving Wall Committee spoke about the wall's visit at the closing ceremonies.
The visitors came from all over New England and further. I know some people only made it no further than the parking lot where they broke down into tears. Those that did make it to the wall came for many reasons. Its location, curiosity, healing, memories and feelings that they hadn't felt in years. The committee was proud to remember and memorialize these 58,213 men and women, most of whom were teenagers when they went to Vietnam.
Jim Bound, who served as veterans agent in North Attleborough, noted what he felt was the most powerful moment of the week.
So many times veterans say, you know, my war was this and your war was that. But when we brought up the Vietnam veterans and we asked all the other veterans to join, it's probably the most powerful thing I had ever seen. And when they came up there and they were hugging each other, I could tell that none of those veterans ever again would say my war, your war. They knew that they were all brothers and sisters. I really thought that was the most beautiful thing I ever saw.
I came across a wonderful reflection that I would like to read to you tonight. It was written by a young teenage girl whose dad had fought in the Vietnam War and had taken her to Washington to see the wall. And it was a very moving experience for him and her as well. And she tells of a story that she witnessed while she was there. It's called Heroes. As I walked along the path, feeling the pain all over again, I thought of how many others had walked this same path, felt this same pain and the anger that I was feeling. To my left was a black stone wall that seemed to block out the sun, and on my right were people laughing, talking, children playing, the birds were singing. I wanted to scream. I wanted them to remember. I wanted them to know, to feel the pain I was feeling. I looked up and saw a boy kneeling before the wall, talking. I approached him to see what he was doing. He looked up at me and he smiled. He said, "This is where my daddy lives." The boy pointed to an engraved name on the stone black wall. I come here all the time to talk to him. I never met my daddy. He was saving people's lives when I was born. And before he could come home, he got hurt and went to heaven. I miss him all the time and wish he hadn't died. And then I get mad at myself for being selfish. If my daddy hadn't died, people wouldn't have lived. I put my picture by him so he wouldn't forget what I look like. On the back, I put my age, because today is my 5th birthday. I wish he was here, but instead of getting sad, I get happy, because I know my daddy is a hero. As I walked away from the boy, I began to cry. The tears weren't tears of anger or pain, but tears of joy, because I knew a hero too. Thank you.
When he came out of the war, he never talked about it. He just put himself into drinking, and he died at 46 from alcohol. I'm not blaming the whole war on him, but it was a great part of it. He always, when he had been drinking, talked, said, "You don't understand what I went through." And I didn't understand. That's why I was looking for anything, any kind of closure or anything to maybe spark something, And I did find peace a lot there. It was just seeing other people going through the same thing. The last day I was there, it was very emotional, and I don't know why, I just couldn't handle it. Just knowing what he must have gone through, and that he could not speak, talk about it. A lot of people couldn't talk about the war, and I wish I had known more to help him. I wish I could have helped him. I hope he's at peace with himself and know that he's with his buddies. I hope he finds his buddies up there, because I don't know. It was hard.
Since this interview, Joe Morehouse received several medals for his service in Vietnam, including the Army Commendation Medal, a medal for heroism.
But just to know that he did something heroic, it was, I was proud of him. After all this time, I'm very proud of him.
It's wonderful to help people work through some of this pain and understand that the pain's never really going to go away, but you can expend less energy in trying to suppress that pain so you can embrace more of life. It's about integrating the pain, not being afraid of it, understanding that it's normal, that it needs to be felt. It's part of how we heal.
It's a very comforting memory. It's very hard to tell yourself to go to it, and it's very hard while you're there. But once, for the first time, once you get through that first time, it's just, you may never go back, but you've left some of your pain there.
It provided closure for a lot of people. It was a great thing for the education of the community, both the young and the old, and not just the school children, but a lot of the elderly people knew little about it other than what they had seen years ago on television, and this really brought it home.
I'm glad so many children saw it, because they didn't realize a lot of this, just the same as me, that there was a war. Yes, it was a war, but the war is not here to us. And until something is like that, and you visualize some of this and everything, yeah, you know about it, but you don't feel it as bad and everything. But when you see that wall and all those names, you know it was a war, and we lost so many people.
When I started seeing people go there and cry, and then if I helped them out, it made me feel like a better person to be there. And like that's why I didn't want to miss a day not being there. And I was with them, and I got to take down a panel of the wall. That was an honor.
So many people were up there and were so happy to be at the wall and be able to finally see it because they'd never get to Washington. No, I just want to thank Joe and Roger for putting in so much time. And Roger sent letters, so many letters requesting money and worked so hard. And Joe also and all of the men on the committee. And yeah, they did an excellent job. And John, the creator, he's an angel.
It says a lot for the town, but it also says a lot for the meaning of the wall, and because everybody knows it wasn't really a popular war, and so for a lot of people to come out and see it and accept it, and more or less appreciate the people who worked so hard to make it real, it makes them all feel good.
Thank you to the town. I'd like to say thanks to the guys that were over there. I'd like to say thanks to the veterans that served all the wars, because we owe you a debt that we can't possibly repay. We can say thank you, and we can finally say to those guys from Vietnam that came over and weren't received so well back home, welcome home.
When I was in Nam, it was 1975. It was the end. It was the evacuation of Saigon. I didn't see what the other guys saw over there. I didn't see all the slaughters and the killing and so forth, so on. The wall to me was, for the guys that were over there, it was closure for them. It was the many, many guys on my watch from 10 to 2 every night I was there. My watch was 10 to 2 every night, and it was those guys that came up there, couldn't go up to the wall, needed to walk with somebody, needed to talk with somebody, needed to share their experiences. And that's what the wall meant to me. It was bringing closure for them.
You know how I feel about the town and veterans and the people, the way they feel about veterans. So John Devitt that brought it around was telling me that it was absolutely one of the best he'd ever had. And especially with the bringing the motorcycles in, he said that never happened. But he really went out of his way to describe how powerful and how well attended it was.
One of the things I'd like to make a point of is the fact that the work that this North Attleborough Moving Wall Committee did was enormous. And I think it really proves to the public that anytime veterans get together, they can accomplish anything. Ask a veteran to do something, get a bunch of veterans together, they'll get the job done. And I think this North Attleborough Moving Wall Committee just proved that to the nth degree with what they did with the wall.
The year 2005 will bring another visit of the Moving Wall to North Attleborough, which will undoubtedly be marked by more miracles and examples of its healing spirit. But those who saw the wall during its first visit in 1999 will continue to remember those special days up at that beautiful green field. We'll leave you with Joe Clougherty as he offers these words about the spirit of the wall.
I think the best thing to do is just say that anybody who had one chance to touch it, just touch it. That's enough for me. It might, so it's cool. And that's what you want them to do. And let them touch it and touch their hearts. Touch it forever.
We no come back again. We no come back again. Better loved ye cannot be. We no come back again. They trusted in their country. They trusted each one, you and me. Freedom's shore so far to see. Death or exile, bravery. We no come back again. We no come back again. Better loved ye cannot be. We no come back again. Broken hearts in twa to twine. Family, friends are left o'er brine, till the day has come and gone. Laddie loved comes marching home. We no come back again. We no come back again. Better loved ye cannot be. We no come back again.